Hello and welcome. This is Dave Michaels from Talking Points. I'm with Dave Danto. Hello, Dave.
Greetings.
And we're supposed to have Dimitri Nettis here, but he hasn't popped up yet. Hopefully, he'll join us soon. We're going to talk a little bit about the Insider Report without the light, apparently. And the Insider Report is a monthly report that Talking Points publishes. Dave has now been contributing to it, and and now wait, here's Dimitri. There you go. There we go. All right, better late than never. He's here. Okay, so welcome, Dimitri. Can you hear us? Okay, Dimitri.
Gotta work on the microphone.
Live communications, Dimitri. We can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear us or not. Looks like he's on it. He's working on it. But the joys of live communication. So the Talking Points Insider Report comes out once a month, and we try to capture in it everything important for the month. And so we're talking about the May Insider Report. And the May Insider Report covered stories that happened in May. It publishes the first week of June. So, Dimitri, can you hear us? No? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here and talk about a few topics here in this report.
I can hear you, Dave.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Welcome, Dimitri. So I just got to briefly introduce both of you because, I've been running the Insider Report by myself for years. I've been slowly adding guest contributors. Dimitri's been a contributor in the past as a guest. Great feedback on that one. And then Dave has joined up with Talking Points, and so now Dave is contributing. And the Insider Report's getting bigger. This last one was 14 pages, which is a bit of a record. I think that'll stand as a record because I decided it was too long. So I'm going to get it condensed a little more. But the Insider Report is curated news with opinions. It's always been industry focused, but now with Dimitri contributing quarterly, Dimitri is from Benchmark Capital. I didn't say that. He's going to be contributing quarterly. And so it's, I believe, the only newsletter that has industry insights and financial insights all in one. So what we're going to talk about here is just a few things. I'm going to start off with Dimitri since he got his audio working. Dimitri, you write about the financial sector and you look at it from a financial perspective. And I wanted to ask you, overall, is UCaaS, CCaaS getting stronger, getting weaker? What's your take on the overall? If we took a basket of stocks and watched them for the next 3 or 4 years, are they going to go up or are they going to go down? What's your take on that?
Thank you, Dave. Pretty good question. That's maybe impossible to answer in one shot, but I do want to bring a couple of points here. And those have to do with the macro environment, with the software environment in general, and then specifically the environment as it relates to our sector. And as you zoom out, all those sort of forces are in play here, right? Macro, we've got high interest rates, we've got inflation, we have all sorts of stuff that influences the smaller, medium business environment. Where people are a little bit more stringent and more constrained in how they spend money on various software tools. From the software and UCaaS, CCaaS perspective, as we know, the larger enterprises may not be moving as fast or continuing to kind of move along the prem-based solutions just because they've invested tons and tons of money already, and it's so embedded. That it's maybe hard to move, and those may be moving, but not at the same pace as the medium enterprises and then small enterprises, so small businesses. And those are obviously challenged in the way of the macro environment, in the way of kind of cash conservation that they are going through, and in the way of uncertainty that has to do with AI, for example, right? I hate to bring that term yet again because I'm sure we're going to spend almost 30 minutes here talking about it. But it is a big deal, and that uncertainty or lack of thereof is what's causing a bit of a feed drag on many of those fronts. So I'll stop here. I can go on forever.
Yeah, so one thing I want to add, I asked you kind of a broad question about a basket full of them, because I know, and I didn't know this before you were contributing to the Insider Report, you've got a lot of restrictions about what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say and all that stuff. And so I wanted to be respectful of that, but you did go into quite a bit of detail in the Insider Report. You went through, I don't know, 10 different companies.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. All right.
I can comment on the facts and I can make some opinions. I don't want or can talk about stocks in the direction of where they might be going. But generally speaking, if information's out there in the public, I'm happy to speak to it.
All right. What's on your mind, Dave?
Oh, well, I'm actually curious. I want to go back to what you said there a second, Dimitri. What is the story with AI? I mean, we've been attending a lot of conferences this year. AI is a hype train. Everybody gets Scotch tape and just, I'm now the AI version of me, and it's the AI version of toothpaste and cars. And what is Wall Street? What are the expectations? Do we believe it's hype? Do we believe that it's the next generation of real, artificial intelligence and general intelligence? How's Wall Street taking this whole hype train?
Great question. I think it's no different than when cloud was built, going back maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? There is a build phase to any new technology, innovative technology, and then there's a usage or use phase. And so I think we're still in the building phase where infrastructure has to get built. The markers have to be put in terms of, is the AI doing the right job? Is it answering questions in the right way that's acceptable to the society or acceptable to certain groups of people and so on and so forth. So all of that and regulations around it and how it's being sort of perceived. All that stuff is still being figured out, and all that uncertainty is obviously dragging people or causing people not to spend on the existing software stacks in anticipation of what that will bring down the road. Pricing environment. Nobody knows how you price AI. Do you roll it? I mean, here's a good example. Microsoft's charging for it, $35, I believe, for Copilot, but Zoom and Cisco decided to throw that into their stack. Into their platform. So you get that with the platform. So technically it's maybe free if you pay for the platform subscription. Is that the right usage model, or do we want to pay per use? And all those undetermined questions need to be answered before we move into the usage phase. But to just kind of cut to the chase, I think Wall Street does believe AI is extremely disruptive and here to stay. And it's no different than cloud 10, 15 years ago. So it will come with time, but you have to build it out and answer many questions before you do start using it.
I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll go ahead and accept that for now. I often see things differently than Wall Street, though. Mr. Danto, you wrote about the Logi Meetup 2. We recently talked about that because the Meetup 1 was one of the game-changing devices in the video space. I think certainly the first mainstream all-in-one video bar, USB bar. And so it's been a while. It's been, 10 years? I don't even know how long it's been for the Meetup 2 to come out. So my question to you is, does the world need more video bars?
I know we're reporting about May and not June, and in June we'll be talking about the conference that I got back from. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details about that now. But I swear, I sat down on Friday for a minute and a bench. The show was 2.5 days. It was just about over. And I looked at the camera and I said, you know what? I'm not going to write a list of the companies that have video bars at this show. I'm going to write a list of the companies that don't have them. It'll be faster. You can't swing a cat without hitting a company that's got some sort of video bar, and it's not companies that traditionally were making them. And I know you and I have had this debate a couple of times where we don't necessarily see eye to eye, but I see a big difference between a company that's building their own products and engineering their own products versus one that's buying them from an ODM or an OEM manufacturer and just kind of slapping their label on it. If you have a company like a Logi or a Cisco that has, in their DNA that they've been building, visual collaboration devices, and then, you get a company that's really known for microphones suddenly has a video bar. I think the market is saturated. I don't see companies dropping out of it as fast as they should be. And I think a lot of them are certified on the various platforms that are out there, certainly Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So I think the competition is going to be fierce. I think the pricing is going to level out, and it's going to be all about differentiators going forward.
All right.
As I say, I agree about the saturation, and that kind of goes back to the Dave's question originally, how we perceive the UCaaS, CCaaS, and CPaaS markets. I do feel and see in many ways that the low-hanging fruit's been picked. And even if you look at North America, just the UCaaS seats, by the measure of Cavell Research, who does a really nice job in the sector, they're calling for about 60% of seats moved already to UCaaS, to cloud. So to me, that only says, okay, so you get 60% penetrated in UCaaS. I mean, how much more or how much faster can you grow? It's going to be, value-based, value-added sale from here on. It's not like a herd mentality where we're going to race to get to the cloud and everybody's going to be on UCaaS one day. Now it's very much feature value prop type sale, and it's harder to gain.
But that's not a direct connection to the video bars, because UCaaS is per seat, per employee, whatever you want to call it, where the video bars are more per room. And we're seeing a lot more rooms becoming video enabled than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
So
yes, I'm not fair enough. I'm not trying to draw a parallel to video. I'm just sort of taking a step back, thinking about the whole market. But you're right. Video probably has a long way to go, given the amount of Tambergs and Polycom systems out there, and people trying to sort of move into a better, cheaper kind of way of handling video, with the UCaaS in the pipe there as well.
Dave, I'll take issue with some of the accepted industry research for decades. I swear, if I see this quote, every time I see this quote, I feel like I get a little nauseous inside when I look at it. When everybody keeps talking about how less than 10% of the conference rooms out in the world are video enabled. I've worked in enterprises from all sides as a consultant, as an end user, as everything else. That's not a real number. I would say it's probably closer to 40%. Of rooms that have some sort of equipment. Now, do they all have the same equipment? Are they all, easy to use? Are they all functional? I'm not sure about that, but there's this significant penetration. Surely there's a long way to go. And we learned during the pandemic and the growth of this hybrid world that we need to equip every room. It's not enough like we used to have 1 or 2 video rooms on the floor and everything else would have an audio conference. It's got to be everywhere, because every meeting has at least one remote participant now. But the numbers about how much more growth there is in the space have always been over-exaggerated and overinflated to me.
Yeah, it's hard to define that now, because everyone's laptop has a camera, and as long as you bring a laptop into a room, I guess it's video enabled. And so the definition seems to be some kind of dedicated video equipment in the room.
Right.
But even when I'm in a room and there's a USB device there, I don't necessarily use it. I might just use the built-in stuff. So, okay. All right, a few more stories here. Let's see. I wrote about the iPad, and I have to say I was a little disappointed in the Apple conference that took place in June, because when we wrote this report, Apple had released the new iPad with the M4 chip, and there was a lot of speculation about why is Apple putting such an incredibly powerful, the most powerful chip it has, in one of the dumbest devices it has, the iPad, and it didn't make any sense. And so I got my imagination going, and it was just weeks until the Apple Developer Conference. So I was expecting them, and hopefully, and even hoping that they would announce the iPad was not going to be so dumb. They did not do that, but they still could. They still could at any time. The iPad has its own operating system and has whatever. And so the point that I wanted to make in that section in the May Insider report is that the iPad is actually kind of a very ingenious, potentially ingenious device that could be extremely disruptive. And I've spent years using a Chromebook, and the Chromebook, I think, is just now people kind of beginning to understand what the Chromebook can do. But the iPad has the ability to run Mac OS, Linux, which is similar, Windows. It runs Windows. MacBooks run Windows fine. It runs iOS and has access to all the iOS apps. And it has a touch screen, which MacBooks don't have. It has a stylus, which MacBooks don't have. And it's fairly inexpensive. It could be the most perfect device if they wouldn't hobble it so much. I mean, it's basically a one app at a time device with the most powerful processor that Apple makes. It just doesn't make any sense. But if they were to unhobble it and allow you to have one window running Mac OS, another window running Linux, Windows, another window running an iOS app, there's nothing that Google or Microsoft has that can compete with this thing. And I'm just surprised as much as I'm just shocked that Apple hasn't done that. I thought, hey, let's put the most powerful processor we've ever made and launch it in the iPad. It's like, oh, this is so obvious. This is what's about to happen. But not yet. It could happen. Could happen any day, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, isn't Apple and the Apple operating system more about security and control, that they want to make sure that you can't sneak any apps on that you didn't buy through their app store? You know, that's been litigated back and forth. And
there's certainly those
Windows would sort of break
those
that.
wouldn't necessarily go away. I mean, so on a MacBook, I haven't done this on my MacBook, but a friend of mine he's installed a licensed version of Windows, and it runs fine. And whenever he needs a Windows app, he just runs it on his Mac. And he wrote about it, and somebody said, you know, why don't you just run the Mac version of that app? He says, because the Mac version of that app is no good, and it's much more capable than Windows. And so it's easier for him to run a full version of licensed Windows 10 in his MacBook, and that is on an M1 processor. This is the M4 processor. So like I said, you could have one window running Windows, one window running Mac OS, one window or the main environment running iOS. I mean, it's like the Chromebook is very ingenious, but it can only run Chrome, and it can run Android apps, but it can't run Windows apps. Windows can't run any mobile apps, and so it's just like this incredibly powerful device that and I also think the iPad is underrated for the contact center, because the contact center, Google's made good progress with the Chromebook in the contact center as a easy to manage device, centrally managed, low security risk, great for at-home workers. And I don't understand why the iPad hasn't done that yet. So I think the iPad is a sleeper device. My point was the iPad is a sleeper device, and it just might wake up, but it hasn't yet.
Well, another thing that you brought up in the report was, covering how Meta shuttered Workplace, and they recommended that everybody move over to, WorkVivo on Zoom. And, I used to talk about how this whole hybrid working, although we don't like that word either, but, this remote capability where we would have this kind of rich communication between us. But then we also did the social stuff on, Facebook, and you'd see what people did overnight and what they did with their families. And we had the same rich relationship as if we worked into the office. And then the whole enterprise social thing kicked off. And, after Yammer and Workplace, and is there really even any more of a need for enterprise social? Did the whole fad kind of go away?
I actually I wasn't too surprised that Facebook or Meta shut down Workplace, because I got asked about it like a few weeks earlier. They're like, I don't think they're still around. So it didn't surprise me completely that they shut it down. It was a big win for Zoom, by the way, because Zoom got the inherited it with WorkVivo. And that's twice now Zoom has inherited, because when Twilio shut down video, they recommended their customers go to Zoom as well. But the thing is, during the pandemic, we sent all the employees home, and we as an industry, we're all heroes. We're all success stories. We kept the world alive because we nailed virtual meetings. We nailed them as an industry. We just delivered it on a platter, and businesses survived, even though everybody was at home. Where we completely failed as an industry was remote work. We didn't understand cultural propagation. We didn't understand onboarding. We didn't understand all these things that happen in a physical environment that were no longer happening. And that's where enterprise social should really work well. Now, what's surprising is post-pandemic, people are going back to the offices, and we kind of forgot about this. So the only companies in our space that are actively addressing enterprise social are Zoom with WorkVivo, and Microsoft, which was Yammer, now Viva Engage, and Microsoft's working on it as well. I think we have to nail this. I think I just saw today that somebody's predicting another big, somebody important is predicting another pandemic from the bird flu, and we're gonna have more pandemics. We're gonna have more issues like this, and work from home is not going to stop. And so we need to figure out how to do this. And I'm surprised the industry isn't really working on it very actively. And so I think it's kind of a hole in our and something that came up at the Zoom conference that I hadn't fully appreciated is that WorkVivo for Zoom makes Zoom chat better, and I hadn't thought about that. But every company is using Zoom chat or Slack or Teams or something along these lines, and they want them to be productive. They want them to be efficient, and people post things in there like the bowling league and stuff like that. It's like, no, I don't want this crap in there. And so if you pull that crap out and put it in an enterprise social app, then your work chat app becomes better. And I think that's an important message that most people don't get. So I don't think it's dead. I would like it to be more alive and kicking though.
Dave, back to the workplace product. As we get the social aspect and why Facebook is good at that. But have they ever been good at, collaboration, documents, enterprise spreadsheets, and PowerPoint-like applications, if at all? I mean, at least Zoom is going that direction, right? And Microsoft.
No, Zoom was going that way with the other part of the suite, but so WorkVivo is not part of that. And so my point is that more of the UCaaS companies need to address the enterprise social part. And the beautiful part of the Facebook story was, they had Walmart as a customer, and everybody knew how to use Facebook, right? And so they would tell their employees, if you want to be on Meta, if you want to be in a workplace, just install this enterprise app, and you already know how to use it. If you know how to use Facebook, there was no training, and all of a sudden they can watch company videos of the CEO. They could exchange ideas with their colleagues. It was a way of getting connected that was like $4 a user per month, as opposed to an enterprise social app, or as opposed to email, as opposed to a phone system. It was cheap and easy. It was just the social part. And I think there's a big need for this type of solution. I think it's a mistake to put it into Docs. I think it's a mistake to put it into Team Chat. It's a separate function. It's a complicated function, I have to admit, because it's a condoned business channel, and it has to be supervised. And then that kind of ruins the idea of it being a free social app. But a lot of employers don't want you to form a union on the social channel and stuff like that. So it's a balancing act. It's tricky, but I think it's an important channel.
It also got into the situation where if there are people spending a lot of time on the app, then why do they have that time? So now you would go look for the leaders in the chat app, the enterprise social chat app. You see somebody spending all day on it and say, well, what does this person do for a living? What are we paying them for? So there was always that we want you on it, but we don't want you on it that much. And it's an interesting dynamic for enterprise social.
All right. Dimitri, I have another question, another financial question for you. I've told you before, when the company has its quarterly results and they announce them, that I listen to them and they share all these things that they blew away their numbers, they didn't meet their numbers, you know the drill. And I've told you this before. I never know afterwards if the stock is going to go up or down, because it's like I just can't figure it out. They blew away their numbers. The stock should go up. But it's like the stock goes down because the market had already factored in they were going to blow out. I can never figure out what's going to happen. And so I'm going to ask you, as a financial pro, what do you look for in a quarterly result? Are you looking for growth? Are you looking for profits? Are you looking for just meeting expectations? Or what are the things that stand out to you? It seems like a obvious question, but I can't figure it out.
Really is the latter. I think it's the game of expectations, nothing else. If the company's presented investors with a certain growth trajectory, profitability trajectory, or lack thereof, and hit the numbers accordingly, means they met their expectations. If they did better than that, then they did better than that, and that should translate into the stock performance. I think it's about hitting and performing as an operating entity in a way that you can manage, guardrail your business, and communicate it out to the street. All it is. And that's why you see some stocks coming in or coming down off the earnings, which perceive to be good, or even if they aren't as good on that particular quarter, the outlook or guidance out might be better than expectations. That will indeed translate into a very nice stock performance on that day of the print. So I think
my dad used to say that any executive team that was surprised by the quarterly results should be fired. So I guess you're in line with his thinking. If the executives are surprised, there's no excuse.
Yep. Yeah.
Dimitri,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to ask you: is it appropriate? They had a number of companies in our space, in the collaboration space, that reset their expectations based on the wild purchasing that was being done when we were all locked at home, and they haven't been able to meet those numbers. And I'm surprised at I guess the business naivete for people to think that those super high numbers would be the constant going forward. We saw a number of executive changes in our space for that issue.
I think it's fair. I think you're right. We've been cutting numbers for 2 years, or maybe even 3 years now in a row. This is the third year of deceleration. On average, I think we're coming in at about 12%. If you took the whole software universe, not just CCaaS, UCaaS, CPaaS. If you look at the software SaaS, about 12% average growth. That's down from about 30% in 2021. And the numbers have been cut every single year, and this is the third year, 2024, in the row that the numbers been cut. The bigger question: are we done? Are we done with cutting? Have we de-risked the downside, or is there more to go? I tend to believe there might be more to go. We'll see if that's the case. There's a lot of uncertainty in the interest rate environment, a lot of uncertainty in inflationary sort of expectations there. Gen AI certainly a bit of a drag on the whole entire space, where people aren't spending as fast or enough. And so we're up for another year of cutting here. And if so, maybe next year is the year where stock's going to start to rebound, meaning we've cut enough where we've de-risked our downside, where the numbers could start coming back up again.
All right. Well, with that positive note, I think we've got 30 minutes here. I think we'll wrap this up. The Insider Report is available to anybody who wants to subscribe to it. It is a paywall product. You have to cough it up. But other than that, it's well worth it, and some incredible, valuable insights every month. And Dimitri, you'll be back with us in, I guess, in 3 months. It'll be June, July, August. It'll be in the September issue. Very good. So thank you for watching, and thank you for reading.
Live long and prosper, as David said. Thank you, guys.